Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today will be the first of many videos, basically a series of videos about highly useful English idioms. I don't want to bunch a million of them together because that will be too much, it will be overwhelming, so I will do them in sets of 10. So I'll be uploading videos very often with lists of 10 idioms that you, as a non-native English speaking consultant, need to understand. Why idioms? It's because idioms are so common in the English language and are so often used that if you don't understand them, it might impede upon your sense of understanding of the entire situation or conversation. So here are 10 commonly used idioms that, when learned, you can use in your own conversations, negotiations, and presentations. Or, if you won't be using them, you'll at least be able to understand what's going on when someone else does. The first one is to beat around the bush. To beat around the bush means to spend a long time getting to the main point of what you're saying, especially because it's a tough conversation or because it's embarrassing. So for example, when explaining a difficult situation to a client or to your boss, it's best to be straightforward and not beat around the bush. Beating around the bush will only prolong your agony. The second one is to hold out an olive branch. What this means is to offer to make peace with a rival or an enemy. So let's say you and a colleague have not been on good terms or on speaking terms for that matter. You might hold out an olive branch by inviting the colleague for a cup of coffee and a chat. The third idiom is can't see the forest for the trees. And this means to be unable to see the whole situation clearly because you're looking too closely at small details. For example, if someone on your team is constantly obsessing over a small mistake he or she made during their presentation, and yet the presentation was very well received by the clients, then you could say that he or she can't see the forest for the trees. The fourth one is to be out of the woods. This means that the situation you're in is still difficult, but it's improved or gotten easier, meaning the hardest part of something is over. So if a mistake had been made and you had gotten through the initial troubling meeting with your boss successfully, you would be out of the woods. The fifth one is barking up the wrong tree. And this means doing something that won't give you the results that you want. So for example, let's say your colleague is about to ask for a raise, but you know your employer will not be giving out raises this year. You could say that your colleague is barking up the wrong tree. Then we have to nip something in the bud. And this means to stop a bad situation from becoming worse by taking action at an early stage of its development. So, for example, if you noticed bad or impolite behavior between two members of your team, you wouldn't want to wait for that situation to escalate. You would instead nip that behavior in the bud. The seventh one on my list is to be between a rock and a hard place. And I like this one very much. So between a rock and a hard place. Basically what that means is you are in difficulty. You're faced with a choice between two options, but both options are unsatisfactory. They're not good. For example, if the only two solutions you have for a client are both unsatisfactory and one is not much better than the other, then you would be between a rock and a hard place. The next one on my list is clear as mud, which means not clear at all, not easy to understand. For example, if you gave a very chaotic and undecipherable explanation of a very important concept, your confused audience could comment that your explanation was as clear as mud, and that's not good. Then we have to let the dust settle. And this means to allow a situation to become calm or normal again after something exciting or bad or unusual has happened. For example, if you came back to your client with some very unsatisfactory results, after explaining the situation, you might want to give them a few hours or a few days before approaching them again. And in this way, you would be letting the dust settle. And the last one for today is to bury your head in the sand. And this means to try to avoid a particular situation by pretending that it doesn't exist. For example, if a member of your team made a large error, you would want that member to admit his or her mistake up front. The last thing that you would want for this person to do was to bury their head in the sand. There you have it. Those are our first 10. Stay tuned for the next 10. And as I said, I will be putting out these videos, these idioms videos, very frequently so as not to overwhelm you with all of them. So we'll go 10 by 10. Before I leave, if you are a consultant who is serious about improving your English consulting communication skills, check out the links in the description box below to our exclusive Facebook and LinkedIn groups. And if you are ready to start your own journey towards English eloquence, there's a link below where you can schedule a free strategy session with me, and we can get to meet each other and discuss further options. Until then, thank you for your time. I wish you all health and happiness and productivity.